Every time you swipe your phone, you are touching a 3,500-year-old accident that obsessive, half-mad alchemists turned into magic. They were not chasing smartphones. They were chasing the Philosopher's Stone, the secret to gold and immortality. Imagine a potter near the Euphrates. He mixes what he has: ordinary sand, ash from burned plants, chalky lime, and heats it until the earth liquefies beneath his tools. What he pulls from that fire is not stone and not metal. It is something that has never existed before. It was glass. By 1500 BCE, that chain had reached the pharaohs. In the royal workshops of Thutmose III, Egyptian craftsmen refined the art, creating vivid blues and greens to mimic lapis lazuli, the stone of the heavens. But the material was still heavy, opaque, and exclusive to the elite. Glass was still, essentially, a very beautiful rock. It took another 1,000 years for everything to change. In 1st century Syria, an unknown glassworker did something no one had done before. He dipped an iron tube into the melt and blew. The glass inflated. The Romans recognized immediately what this meant. They took this blown, hollow miracle and spread it from the heat of the Levant to the cold of Britain. When Rome fell, the fire did not die. It migrated, carried by craftsmen across the Mediterranean to a small, fog-wrapped island in a Venetian lagoon, where it became the most closely guarded industrial secret in the medieval world. In 1291, the Republic of Venice made a decision that reveals how much glass was worth. They ordered every furnace in the city moved to the island of Murano and locked it there. Glassmakers were given noble titles, their daughters permitted to marry into Venetian aristocracy. They were also forbidden to leave. If you shared a recipe with a competitor, you shared your last breath with the executioner. The state did not guard military fortresses this carefully. It guarded Murano. Why? Because the Milanese had achieved the first transmutation. Using a mineral called manganese dioxide, what they called the glassmaker's soap, they had learned to purge the yellow-green sickness from ordinary sand and produce something they named cristallo. Glass so clear and still, it looked like a vessel of solid water. Alchemists immediately recognized what this meant. They called the clear glass vessel the philosophical egg, a transparent womb in which, they believed, the conditions for transformation could be perfected. They were not wrong about the transformation. They were just looking for the wrong miracle. But little did they know that the philosophy behind this science and the stone would end up helping creation the touchscreens in our phone. For centuries, the alchemist's dream was a glass that could not break, a material that was both transparent and indestructible. In 1962, Corning's scientists got there. But it was not a miracle. They submerged ordinary glass in a 400-degree bath of molten potassium salt. In a process called ion exchange, larger potassium ions forced their way into the surface of the glass, displacing smaller sodium ions and compressing the outer layer into a state of permanent tension. A surface under constant, invisible pressure, braced against any blow. It worked. The resulting material, first called chemcore, later reborn as Gorilla Glass, could be bent nearly double without breaking. A sheet of it could take the impact of a dropped phone and return it undamaged. The alchemists had dreamed of healed silica for 500 years. Corning's chemists had achieved it in a salt bath. The final transmutation required one more impossible material, a metal you can see through. Indium tin oxide, ITO, is a ceramic that violates intuition. It is technically a metal in that it conducts electricity. It is also, somehow, almost perfectly transparent. We learned to deposit it onto glass atom by atom, building an invisible conducting grid. Touch the screen, you are not pressing a button. You are stealing electrons from the grid. The phone detects where the theft occurred and translates the location into a command. The alchemists were looking for a stone that could sense the divine. They made one. They just didn't live to unlock it. Ancient sand now reads the spark in your skin. Every swipe is the end of a very long chain, and you are holding it. That's the B-side. If this finally clicked, subscribe. The next thread is already burning.